Hi, I'm John, and it's Do It Yourself with John, the Garage Makeover. Behind me, you can see I've got this garage, little single car garage here. The builder at least finished the sides, but not the back, not the ceiling. There's some other ugliness to this thing. It's pretty depressing. We got this terrible little light here. You can hardly see. I hope the camera comes out okay. Our only outlet is right there. I think we need to do something about that. Bring a little power down to where we can use it. I think the plan is going to be here. We'll finish this out, put a utility outlet over here, put in a false ceiling and a better light. We'll get the place all painted and we'll put up some shelving so all this stuff in the middle here has a place to go, I mean other than the heavy stuff. And then we'll finish it off with some sort of a floor treatment. I think it'll look pretty nice when we're done. Okay, we're looking at the back wall here. I'm going to cover this in pegboard, and that way later on we can hang things on the wall. So I've got these panels, I've set it down, I'm going to mark off a spot here so I know how high this is. What I'm going to do is take the outlet box, and I want to eventually make a cutout in this to go around this, but I'm going to have it so that it shares a seam with the next piece. Since I've got that mark, I can locate this box. Because this is thin material, I'll keep this pretty close to the back. Normally you'd set it out so that it comes up like for your sheetrock, but this is thin. Keep it back here. We'll just make it even, and then that'll be the place. These kinds, you just nail these in and that's it. Okay, we've got the box nailed in. It's at the spot that we wanted to have it. Got some Romex. There's a little hole in the back. We pop that open so we've got a spot for it. It comes through. We pull out a useful length here that we can work on later. And then I'm going to take and just tack this down to this stud here with these neat little clips. Okay, we've pulled this wire through and went ahead and stapled it down in a couple spots with these nail-in clips. Later I'll run this down the rafter and prep the other end of the cable with a connector. In the meantime, I've stripped these wires here so that they're ready to go right onto the outlet. The ground here actually needs the loop connection. Tighten that up good. Now the white wire goes to the big slot. Tighten that one up. The black wire goes to the other side. Try to form these leads down so that the thing will fit in snug into the box. And we'll run these screws in and get the plate on. I've got a plate, looks nice for a garage. We won't put that on yet because we have to put the paneling down first. Okay, now we've got the outlet here roughed in. And when I come to put the panels on here, it may be necessary to pop this out, temporarily to get around it. But so I'll leave it there loose for now. It is operational. I've gone ahead and got the wire lashed across the rafters here, and I've prepped a connector to go into this outlet, and it's plugged in and running right now. And later on, I'll put up a ceiling. I'll deal with tidying up upstairs here. Okay, so we've got a hot outlet. I can charge my batteries and do things here. In the meantime, I'm going to call it a day. Oh, here we're back in the garage, and I've marked off all the panels here that are going to go on the wall. So we've got markings for where we'd have cutouts and such. And when we come to saw these, we want a nice straight edge. So what we've done is taken some scrap and we clamp it down. And in the case of this, the saw is exactly 1 inch from the edge. So we set this as 1 inch. And we don't even have to think about this. We just push the saw through. It'll make a nice perfect cut. Okay, we're back in the garage, and I've measured off all the cuts that we're going to do on these panels. And so we've got cutouts, for the junction box and trims that I have to make to get this to fit. So what we've done is clamped up a piece of wood here to use as a fence. The saw here has an exact 1 inch clearance. So if we set this to 1 inch, the saw will run right along this, and we can make one nice smooth cut. Now I've got on polycarbonate glasses, so I'm not going to have any glass in my eyes or something like that. Okay, we finished cutting up all these panels, and we've got them secured on the wall. Now later on, there's going to be some additional shelving brackets and stuff that'll really hold these things down, so we don't actually have to do a lot more. Test fit the nice faceplate here, And we made a little spot for the wire to pass through up there so that when I put the ceiling treatment up there, it'll be pretty well flush. So, then we've got a wall. Next thing to do will be to get the whole place prepped for paint, and then we'll get some paint down here and it'll start to take shape. Now the panels actually didn't quite get completely to the top of the wall. There was a little gap, but the gap I knew would be smaller than the ceiling piece because it takes about 1.25 inches for the edge trim for the false ceiling. And so these won't be seen, but I added these little backing strips up here from the scraps that we had. And those will just provide a good place for supporting that railing when it goes up. So the appearance of that will never be visible in the end, but it'll provide good structure for the trim. So the wall is basically ready here to do things with. And so next will be prepping these sheetrock walls and getting paint down. Okay, we've done a lot of spackling on the walls, patched in all the little nail heads, and fixed some of the gaps that were in here. Keeping this hole because that's where I'm going to put a bracket later. I want to keep it marked. Generally, we're ready to do some finish sanding here. Pretty dirty, so I'm wearing a dust mask because it's pretty nasty when you get all this dust going. So we'll start sanding on some of these and see how they smooth off. Some of these I was able to do pretty smooth. There's not much there. Some of these other thicker ones, I'm not sure we can get them on camera or not. There's a little more to them. When they sand out, you'll end up being able to see where the low spot was. And when it's pretty smooth, you'll have removed an awful lot of the material, and then that feels pretty nice and smooth. So we'll just go over all of this with that. Probably use an electric in some cases here to get it go faster. But when it's nice and smooth, we'll be ready for paint. Okay, we've already sanded out all the spackling work we've done, so it's nice and smooth, and we'll be ready to paint then. But remember the 3 P's of painting: preparation, preparation, and preparation. None of those are the paint. Paint's the last thing. You gotta have everything right before you paint. So we'll probably go over and look for little defects or something like that and fix those before we actually paint the whole thing. Mask off, got our blue tape. Mask off like the switch outlets and things of that sort. So anything we don't want to have paint accidentally get on, we want to mask it. Paint that drips on the floor. It's a garage floor. It doesn't really matter so much if there's paint there, but what you want to do is not wipe it up right away. So leave it as a drip, let it dry, and you can pick it off later with a screwdriver. It pops right off. If you wipe it, then it's there forever. It's hard to get out. Anyway, we're going to move ahead on that. I'll start doing my blue tape, and then we'll start doing what we call cut-in. That's the first part of the painting, is you do all the parts that a roller can't get to. All the detail areas that are close to another corner or some other feature that you don't want the roller to accidentally get on. And you don't have to paint a whole lot, just enough to where, when you come back with the roller, you don't have to touch up afterwards. You'd like the roller to be the last pass. Now we don't know yet whether we're going to need a second coat or not. We'll see how that goes, but we'll get the first coat on probably today and see how that looks. Okay, so we started to do the cut-in, and you can see in these still shots I've got here, put some paint around the edges down toward the bottom and in the corners. Then we'll be ready to paint in earnest. More shots here of the cut-in. You can see in the back wall how it's cut in all the way around. Now here's the first coat gone on, and another shot of it. And you can see a little bit of the spackle work through it. We're going to go ahead and do a second coat. Now I've done the second coat of the upper portion of the wall, and it's dry at the time of this photo. I've put in a horizontal mask line around the whole room. I set that to be the height of 2 sections on the garage door so that when it opens up, it sort of lines up with the partition on the neighboring units. It looks like a correctly sort of placed line. The floor itself is not level. The floor has a slope, so all the measurements for making this thing level were taken from the ceiling. So there's about a 3-inch slope on this floor. So you don't take any measurements off your floor. That's not a good reference. Then I started the cut in, putting a gray on the lower half here, so you can see some of the cut in there. And then here's a shot once it was all finished and the masking tape taken off. When you peel your masking tape, you pull it away from your new paint so it doesn't peel up your fresh paint. It'll separate properly. Also, it will tend not to lift up your old paint either if you pull it back pretty carefully. Okay, so now we're going to be in a position to go ahead and start on the ceiling. Okay, the painting is done, as I mentioned before, and we're going to start to put in a false ceiling, and that involves these 2-foot square paperboard tiles. And the first thing you have to do with that is to get this perimeter track put in where they'll rest in this. So I put up one of these so far. I got one here that's got kind of an aluminum look to it, so when it's done it'll sort of have that industrial feel. They come in all sorts of colors though. You can get different wood colors or white or whatever you like. And I'm going to do a black and white alternating scheme up here, so I thought this would look good. And then also up on this end of the building, I'm going to have some shelving. So this is a railing that you buy to put up this wire shelving. So you put up the support bracket, and I'll have a couple more of these later on. And all these do, you buy the uprights here, just pop in, and then you decide where you want them, you know, based on what you have to fasten down, because you do have to anchor these down a little bit so they don't move around on you. But these can take a lot of weight. I can put a couple shelves on each of these when that's done. For the moment, we're going to go ahead and finish up doing this perimeter bracket. Okay, we're putting up the false ceiling here, and what we've got is we've got all these cross members here that are available to us. So this kit comes with these long slender parts which you put up on here. Then they've got these cross pieces, and so we're putting these in progressively going down because you want to keep them tight so that the dimensions are exactly right, because you don't know what the wood is doing out here. So we'll work our way down, and then later we'll come in and trim pieces for the sides and the tiles that have to fit in the odd size pieces. You should be able to get a pretty good piece of this done after just a little while. And then the space in here for this next square is going to be where we put a big light. So I'll end up taking out this old light fixture and setting up the new one. So we'll get on to all that. Okay, we've got a perimeter set up on this, and we've got a pretty good set of these cross members already populated, and I got the light put in. We just powered it up. It fits in just in place of the tile. It's an LED arrangement, gives about the same amount of light as a dual 4-foot fluorescent, and it should last a long time and give a nice color rendering. And then we got the shelving put in, so I can get all the junk here and put it back up there, and we can open up the floor space and get the rest of the tile work done, and eventually on the floor. Okay, we finished putting up a portion of the ceiling tiles. We got up to the point where we're going to have to extend and add more runners and stuff, but then I'll have to work with the garage door down. We got all these done. We trimmed out all these pieces for the perimeter and filled in the rest. Of course, the lights in, shelves are up, and moved most of the stuff up to the shelves. Probably reorganize a little more later, but that'll pave the way to do the floor. The flooring will start from the door and progress back. So we'll start from there, work stuff back, and then it'll end up finishing off. So anyway, that was a fair amount of work right there. It's starting to look almost done. Well, we've got most of the ceiling done. There's a few last details to take care of, but got some parts in order, so can't do that right now. So we're going to move to the flooring. I've got this flooring system, and these snap together. These individual pieces, they've got these little hooks, and they've got latches, and they basically snap together. They're not glued down. So you start with the tapered edge here at the door, and then we'll build out from there. Got to give them a little persuasive with a rubber mallet, because they're kind of stubborn, but they go together. They're pretty well hooked. Unfortunately, they shipped them, in some cases, hooked up in 4s, and I've got to separate them, and they're kind of a nuisance. But you can do it with a pair of pliers. It's not too bad, but we'll be spending a lot of time just separating a lot of these, I'm afraid. Anyway, we'll get started. I've got a pattern devised where it's going to have a black outline trim. Most of the black has to get trimmed, so that'll actually go in almost last. One line here, we have a red rectangle, and then there'll be a checkerboard pattern with a light and a dark silver. I don't think I've got a sample of the silver right here, but that's okay. You'll see it. We'll start to build it out. It'll progress along here, and then we'll give you another look at it as we get it further away. Okay, we've got a little bit of the tile started, and you can see the way the pattern is progressing. The edges will be black later on. We have to trim those, so I can't put them in just yet, and we'll probably put those in last. But these are pretty easy to put in. I'll just show you how to put one in real quick here. Now these two sides have loops and two don't, so you've got to work outwards from the corner without the loops. So here we've got the next spot, and you just set this into position and get it sort of lined up, and then you just start driving this guy home, and there you go. So we just keep at it here. We'll probably get tired, but get this finished off and then show you sort of what it looks like as we get it closer to completion. Okay, we got the floor all put down, trimmed all the edge pieces. Luckily the building was pretty square, so it didn't take very many settings on the saw. We were able to rip out a bunch of them in a hurry. The only tricky pieces were the corners and these little pieces where we had to cut some notches for the track, for the garage door track, so that filled in nice. And there's the ramp piece ended up being nice and even. So it all came together. Next I'll have to put down some sort of baseboard kind of thing here to cover the little gap that's around the edge. You have to actually make the floor slightly small intentionally, because otherwise if it were to get really warm it'll actually expand, and if it can't expand it'll start to pop up and stuff. So gotta allow a little space for it. I calculated I needed about 3/8 of an inch. So anyway, it's all starting to come together here. It's not quite done, but it's looking like it's done. Almost. Okay, you're back again with John and Do It Yourself. It's been a while. We've been having some bad weather and stuff. Haven't worked on the garage for a while, but now it's pretty much done. Take you through the finishing items here. Got some notes here on what we spent, so I'll just go through that with you. You can see how it came out, when it was finally done here. So just a quick rundown. You may recall we had an empty wall. Now we've got put up perf board. Had to buy think it was 5 panels of perf board. That ran about 90 bucks. And then we did prep and painting. Ended up taking 4 cans of paint, 3 cans of white, 1 of this gray. That run about 120 plus, say, 20 bucks for brushes and rollers and all that stuff. And then I added some electrical stuff. Put in an outlet. New wall plates for the light switch. That came from the only outlet, which was up here on the ceiling. Got that pretty well tiled in at this point. I painted it black so it just kind of hides. And I put in the new light. Remember there was a crummy little fluorescent. Now this is a nice 2x2 LED. Use about 80 watts or so. It's effectively the same as a 4-foot fluorescent tube with 2 bulbs as far as light output. And the color temperature, I like the color temperature. It's a 4,000 Kelvin. It's nice and natural looking. That ran about 190 bucks. And then we put up the shelving. I think in the previous videos we had put up the gray shelving here. And then later on I needed some more storage, so I added some more. In the meantime, the manufacturers changed their colors. Gone to a nice silver hammer tone now. Actually looks better. But so I put 2 new ones up here. Totally the shelving about $620 in here, and it's got quite a bit of storage space. So then we ended up doing the floor tile. Had 190 square feet. It's about just under $4 a tile, if I recall. Worked out to be about 720 bucks, the floor tile. We had to trim the edges, snap it in. I think we discussed this before. So that came out pretty good. Feels nice and sturdy. It repels dirt pretty well. We've got a few spots from raindrops and whatnot, but it cleans up pretty easily. Spent about $290 on a ceiling grid system that'll mount right on the joists that were up here. And it's plastic, but it's got a metal finish to it, so it looks like metal. And that was a flush system. And I needed 2 kits that were designed for 100 square feet, so that ran to about 290. Ceiling tiles, got the black and white tiles all together. That was about 260 for the tiles. So kind of the grand total for the whole project was right around 2,350 bucks. I don't know, we spent, I forget how many weekends on it, but we didn't put in all that many hours really. It was mostly, for the painting and some of the more time-consuming parts. But we did the tile in 1 day, we did the shelving in 1 day. The painting really was probably 1 day, except, we did it over the course of a couple weekends, I think. Anyway, it's looking pretty good. I wish it was a little wider. The car just barely fits in here, but it fits right on the checkerboard section. I got just enough room to get out. But that was the idea. There you have it. So thanks for watching, and I hope you do a nice do-it-yourself project as well.